validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa, I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
All right. Oh man, I'm late again. Here we go. Here we go. We got it. How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. Whew. So I found a lot of stuff for Monday. And I'm actually going to be, after the show today, I'm going to be working on some stuff for Tuesday night show. So you're going to see, so Monday night show is already produced. Tuesday night show is going to be posted later tonight, perceivably early tomorrow, so that you guys will be able to hit the notification buttons on those. As you see, we're about 30 minutes late today. And while we are live 7 nights a week, we do not let the sun rise without going live, but we don't always start on time. And that's why we ask you guys to like and subscribe, mash those notification buttons so that you know when we go live, so that you can be here at the top of the hour in case we have some news or updates that we want to debrief you on. And then while you're here on the live, you want to mash those reaction buttons, show support for the channel, so that we can kind of trigger the algorithm to reach out to more fans on the show. Now, today we're going to be talking about rich hobby traps and how showing off wealth can wreck your wealth. We've covered this in a number of different ways on the show, but we're coming from a different angle today. So we wanted to go ahead and give you guys a lot of information on that. But being live 7 nights a week, we cover different topics every night of the week. Tomorrow being Sunday, we're going to be covering questions and comments from the fans. So you guys have questions about the things that affect you. I'll provide you guys with some responses and answers to that. Then we have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday is like business and politics, and where Monday we're going to be talking about how politics negatively impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money. And this week is going to be pretty serious because we're looking at they modified they haven't done it yet, but they're discussing it in the House and Senate about modifying certain tax deductions that would effectively deny any unauthorized non-American citizen from receiving reimbursement credits from earned income. And for American citizens, you're like, oh, well, how does that impact me? Well, it impacts people who are married to non-properly documented citizens. It impacts entire families who are non-documented citizens, the ones who haven't gotten deported yet. And it will ultimately limit or reduce the quantity of spending capital in that lower 25% market, which would lower capital accessibility to spending, which means that the businesses that thrive off of the bottom 25% market would have less capital going around, which would deprive employers from being able to support the payroll for those particular markets, where the employees in that particular market would not be making would not have as much accessibility to hours as they would. Now, the strangeness to the situation, while it would be a trickle down effect, it is another way of discouraging individuals who come to America without the proper citizenship to receive benefits from the local government. So that's something that we're going to be talking about on Monday. Then another thing that we found out about is that they're taxing Canada some more. So that's going to be a wild thing. And I'm going to be talking about how they found another way to make Canada even more mad. So I expect you guys. I appreciate. Looks like Lucas. Is that Lucas the poser from YouTube? Managed to get himself over there on the TikTok channel. Appreciate you for showing support, my guy. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about that, and we're gonna be making sure that we cover the taxation and how that's gonna work out. And Canada said they're gonna retaliate by doing tariff increases. And you just got to understand that that discussion is a double-faced sword discussion, because with the back and forth action that they would have with that, there is already an executive order out there that says if tariffs go up on us, that we automatically raise tariffs on them. So if there's a 50% tariff that's being applied to another country due to their performance and behavior, and spoiler, the tariff that's being hit is when a country biasly targets the United States in commerce, they are allowed to be hit with a 50% tariff. Now, it's a wild thing to think about, but if you remember about a year or so ago, when the United States started applying tariffs to Canada because Canada wasn't putting the proper people in position, I do believe it had something to do with covering the border or something to that effect. Donald Trump put a tariff on Canada. Well, Canada retaliated by taking all of the American alcohol off of their shelves and refusing to purchase alcohol from America. That is a biased move. We're no longer doing business with America exclusively. Everybody else we're okay with, but America we're not going to do business with. With that logic, that triggers this tariff, because you are refusing to allow Americans products to enter your country, right? You're refusing to sell American products. And by refusing to sell American products, now America can tax you 50% on your imported goods. So there's going to be some push and pull there. And the reason why we're going to be talking about that is because ultimately this 50% tariff is going to have a negative impact on everything that comes from Canada, including fuels that could be utilized for electricities and other such things. And that could snowball into what's having even more short-term, higher expenses for the bottom 50 and bottom 25 percentile of Americans. So this is going to be something we're going to be talking about on Monday. Now, Tuesday, we're going to be talking about different ways to make, save, and invest money, because Tuesday is the last Tuesday of the month. So we're going to be talking about the dividend rotation watch list. We're going to be going over the out of the 54 stocks that we are watching on our core satellite portfolio. We're going to be going over the ones that will have ex dividends produced over the next 60 days. So Tuesday, we're going to be kind of giving you guys insight, including in the current volatile market, about how we can put a large quantity of capital into our pockets by putting our money in the right places where the market is kind of favoring our ability to get kickbacks. All right. Now, then we start talking about on Wednesday, different countries around the world that we can invest in and potentially live in, cheaper than the country that we live in, especially if you're living in places like Hong Kong and the United States, because everything in America is expensive. Now, after that, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, today being Saturday, we talk about self-improvement, personal development, relationship topics, socialization, negotiations, building your brand, raises, promotions, retirement, forced retirement, severance packages, and termination. Then we start talking to you guys about your 20 and 30-year plan. And the reason why we cover all of these things is because half of the things that impact your life is your financial decision-making skills, and the other half of it is your ability to make money in business. I have come to understand that the stress and pressure, part of it at least, that you have on your job is because for the work that you do not make enough money to cover your current standard of living. Your current standard of living is not just your core bills. It is also your financial decisions. And it is not just whether or not you're investing in something. It is also your recreational decisions, your relationship decisions, your family decisions, as we discussed in yesterday's show, how you could be making good money, doing everything right, budgeting all of your money, but still leaking money out of your bank accounts because you're helping out a family member, doing something for a friend, buying a makeup gift, celebrating a birthday or a victory for a family or a friend, doing things for other people out of your money. These are financial decisions. You also have scenarios where you take time off from work, where you schedule vacations so that you can spend time with other people. That takes you away from the extra time you could have had at work. All of these things also directly interact with or impact your ability to make, save, and invest money. So your personal decisions dictates your standard of living. Everything down to whether or not you eat store brand food versus name brand food, store brand clothes versus name brand clothes, quality versus cheap. All of your decisions cost you money. So throughout the week, we talk about different ways to improve how you discuss and address your decisions so that you reduce the quantity of unnecessary spending and improve the quality of the spending that you actually do have, so that 20% of your money can give you 80% satisfaction, right? And then we tell you all of the different ways that you can go about making extra money so that you got more money going around, which would make a lot more sense for everybody, right? Now today, like I said before, we're supposed to be talking about rich hobby traps and how showing off your wealth wrecks your wealth. And I know that some of y'all who have been here for the last few years, or at least the last 6 months, would have seen different ways when we've covered this on the show, how this could in fact negatively impact you, because the difference between stealth wealth, where you build financial security and you don't live like you're poor. Instead, you live modestly and within reason. You're not the person that's running around buying all the name brand outfits because you're not flashing the fact that you could afford to pay for those brands. You instead just buy what you need, regardless of if a brand is showing or not. And then the money that you don't waste on impressing society is money that provides you with financial security, versus loud wealth, where you're in a situation where you are strategically buying things to impress other people, like buying a luxury car so that people can be envious of you having a luxury car, buying name brand clothes, buying name brand shoes, buying name brand colognes and perfumes, name brand jewelry, just so that people can identify the brand to be able to think you are wealthy because you could afford to pay that much money for that item, where the average person in the 25 percentile can't. That's the difference between loud wealth and stealth wealth. And ultimately, loud wealth costs you way more money than stealth wealth, right? But we're going to be getting into that today. So think about this. Think about it like this. Let's say, you did it. You got a promotion. You landed a new client. Or let's say you had that successful exit, right? Your income is finally where you wanted it to be. A clear sign of your hard work, right? And you decide to reward yourself. You've earned it. For some of us, maybe it might be that that European sports car or a trip to Europe, something that you've dreamed about since you were a kid. Or maybe high-end mechanical watch, a tidy, perfect machine ticking away on your wrist. Perhaps it's a membership to an exclusive golf club. The one with the flawless greens and the right people in the clubhouse, stuff like that. You're telling yourself, this is what success is supposed to look like. This is tangible proof of your achievements. And for a moment, it might feel incredible. The initial thrill, the compliments from friends, the perfect Instagram post, it's a rush. It feels good to be trending, especially when everybody is complimenting your achievements and the things that you try to pull off for yourself. But then you start feeling that shift, and it always happens. It always happens. It's going to be quiet at first, just, background hums of anxiety. The car needs its ridiculously expensive annual service, because if you guys have a Benz or a BMW, you guys understand that the motherfuckers is not cheap to service. Tune-ups and oil changes, shit is expensive. The tires on them bastards are expensive. The brake pads on them bastards are expensive. They even look nice, but they're by far not cheap. The watch doesn't feel quite so special anymore now that you've been eyeing the next model up, or God forbid, you've worn your watch so much that you went into a location where you were pretty much hands-on and you ended up damaging the watch. So now it's got scuffs and scrapes on it. You got one that was lavishly covered in diamonds, which is the worst move you could ever do. And now a few of the diamonds have fallen out. It starts looking tacky. Now you're thinking, I want to upgrade. Your golf game has to justify the staggering annual dues. So it starts to feel less like joy and more like an obligation. But what if that symbol of your success isn't a reward at all, right? What if it's the first gilded bar on a very comfortable and very expensive cage that you're building for yourself? What if your hobby, the thing meant to be your escape, has become your second job? One where you pay them for the privilege of working. This is the rich hobby trap. It's the sneakiest financial trap out there because it doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels earned, like a self-entitlement. It feels like success, but it's a mirage of wealth that is slowly, politely bleeding your future freedom and your actual fortune, one reward at a time. It's almost like, for those of you who play games, video games, and you've got your character, you level up your character, you want to unlock this prestigious armor, right? That has immense power. Everybody is envious of its power. but it has two simple flaws. Flaw number one, you have little to no help with this immense attack, like a glass cannon, right? Problem number two, you also have no agility and dexterity, so you can't dodge any attacks. You're like a walking glass tank, literally. So while you can have this custom legendary armor that probably had to pay to get it, right? That everybody wished they had. But when you get into a match with it, you're more likely to lose than to win unless you're going after first strike and you never miss your target. In that scenario, now you got to put in work to show the victories, to justify buying that armor. You have to put in the work and schedule the matches with the right players that you're going to get that instant win on, so that you can have that reputation that that legendary armor was worth getting. It's not. Because instead of you enjoying the fact that you have something that very few people have, you're grinding to justify it for yourself, not for everybody else. Because everybody else is like, oh man, I wish I had that. But what if you're riding around in a car that requires premium gas and you can't afford premium gas right now? Right? Now, let's get one thing straight. Tonight's lecture is not about not enjoying your money. I mean, the whole point of earning more is to improve your life, of course. The danger isn't in the spending. It's in the pattern of spending that we end up falling into. And often, without a second thought, we just dive right in and don't even care. The rich hobby trap is a specific and particularly sneaky kind of lifestyle inflation. You've probably heard of lifestyle inflation on our show quite a few times, or lifestyle creep. We've covered it in plenty of different scenarios. It's what happens when your spending rises in perfect lockstep with your income. You get a $10,000 raise and somehow your monthly expenses manage to expand by about $800 a month. The raise vanishes before it ever has a chance to build your wealth. The gap between what you earn and what you spend is where wealth is built, not the size of your paycheck. So when that gap stays the same, let's say you go from $50,000 a year on a $40,000 a year income or lifestyle to say $100,000 a year on a $90,000 a year lifestyle. Their gap is $10,000. The gap was always $10,000. And let's say you spent that remaining $10,000 instead of building your wealth every year, you spent that $10,000 on vacations and partying and hanging out with friends. You ultimately spend 100% of your money every year, even though you've doubled your income. That's what we're talking about. So when that gap stays the same, that's when you start feeling like you're on a financial treadmill. You're running faster and faster, but you're still staying in the same place that you were before because you got a better job, more prestige, but you have more responsibility, more of a workload. You might be able to delegate some of it, but you have more responsibilities and you still have little to nothing to show for it because while yes, you have a nicer car, you no longer value that car when you've been driving the same car for the last 6 months. Yes, you have a nicer house, but you're not able to value that house because you're never home because you're working 6 days a week. Yes, you have all of these extra memberships with all of these extra places, but I mean, you don't get the benefit from those things because you work 6 days a week. What good is a gym membership if you can't go to the gym because you don't have enough time? You can talk about it in passing, but you're paying for a membership that you can never use. The rich hobby trap is going to be more insidious than just upgrading your coffee. It's lifestyle inflation that has gotten tangled up with your very identity. It's the point where a hobby stops being about intrinsic joy, the pure pleasure of activity, the skill you're building, the peace that it brings you, and it turns into a performance. Yeah, it becomes a vehicle for signaling your status. The focus shifts from the experience to the equipment, from the doing to the showing, from the personal fulfillment to public validation. Think about it. If you have two ways to be cyclist, uh, if you had one person buy, let's say you're trying to be a bicyclist. Let's try that. One person buys a solid, reliable bike for a few $100 and spends their weekends exploring trails, feeling the burn in their legs and the wind in their face. Their joy comes from riding itself. Those of us who grew up in the 90s and the 80s and 70s, even in early 2000s, 2005 or whatever, before the internet, the late 1900s, we would all get out and ride our bikes. If we had nothing else to do, we'd ride our bikes. We would ride our bikes to a collective of bikes where we would recognize bikes that belonged to some of our friends, and then we would go and join our friends doing whatever it is that they were doing. Arcades, fishing, rope swinging from trees into ponds that said do not swim, jumping off train tracks, ramping off of cliffs. We would do all kinds of stuff with our bicycles for the sake of doing it. Now imagine another kind of person that buys a $15,000 carbon fiber racing bike, full branded kit, GPS computer, power meter. They post their gear on their ride stats online. Soon the joy isn't from the ride, it is from being seen as a serious cyclist. From having their gear that validates their sport in that tribe. And that spending never stops because maintaining that identity requires constant upgrades. Better helmets, better video cameras to record yourself riding. Then you got video editing and posting content. The hobby is no longer a restorative escape. It has become a reoccurring and growing line item in your budget. It's a performance that must be funded. It's what economists call conspicuous consumption, spending designed purely to signal wealth and social standing. And in the age of social media, this instinct is on steroids. Your hobby becomes content. Your leisure becomes a brand. A hobby that was meant for joy becomes a wealth lead. A passion becomes a financial ball and chain. You started by buying an object or experience to feel successful, but you soon find that object and all expectations that come with it. Now you own it. So these are the golden handcuffs. And the most dangerous part is that we're the ones who lock ourselves up. Not really thinking about that, right? Now, if the trap is so damaging, why do so many smart, successful people walk right into it? Because at its core, it's not a financial problem. It's a psychological problem. The trap works because it preys on some of our deepest human needs. First, it feeds our need for status and recognition. For thousands of years, being seen as successful within your tribe was a matter of survival. That instinct is still wired into us. But now We signal it with brands, exclusive access, and visible markers of success. And that luxurious watch or those front row seats aren't just about function, they are a broadcast. They say, I've made it. I'm a person of taste and means. And that recognition from others delivers a powerful, even if temporary, boost of our self esteem. Special shout out to OG Kids on the YouTube side of things. The second, it satisfies our deep seated need for belonging. We're social creatures. We want to be part of a group. When you take up a hobby like golf, sailing, or collecting fine wine, you're not just learning a skill, you're buying entry into a community. That exclusive club membership isn't just for the golf, it's for the network. Take, for example, people who buy Audis. You don't just buy the Audi, you join the Audi club. People who buy Mustangs. You don't just buy a Mustang, you join a Mustang club. People who buy motorcycles. You don't just buy the motorcycle, you join a motorcycle club. Boating, fishing, majority of these things, you don't just acquire the hobby, you join the group that has that same hobby. It's for the feeling of belonging. Now, the problem is when the cost of entry and continued participation requires a level of spending that's fundamentally unhealthy for your financial future. You're paying a steep price for admission to a club that may not have your best interest at heart. But the most powerful psychological hook is the trap of identity. This is the point where the hobby fuses with your sense of self. It's the difference between saying I enjoy playing golf and I am a golfer. It's the difference between I like to travel and I am a world traveler. Liking to travel or wishing that you could travel will be somebody who enjoys when they finally do get to go somewhere versus somebody who's required to go to a different country in a different location every week or every month all the time, where you no longer have the ability to linger in a specific location because you must be seen somewhere else in order to be recognized as a world traveler, right? So take, for example, a restaurant connoisseur who builds his or her reputation on tasting fine foods and upscale restaurants and giving quality reviews, right? Now, that person goes from I like eating food to now I'm a food critic. You cannot enjoy the food as much as you would because one, everybody's on edge because they don't want you to give them a bad review, which means that your restaurant experience is not authentic. And then two, it is more about what you think about the food itself for your review, not the fact that you get to enjoy the actual meal. And because you're a food critic, you don't get to just linger at the same restaurant every day. You have to go to a bunch of different places every week so that you can review different places on a regular basis, which ultimately means that you very rarely have the opportunity to linger at what you would identify as your favorite place to eat because you're always at a new restaurant. You always eat there at least once, but you very rarely eat there twice. Because to be a world-renowned food critic, you would have to try most restaurants around the world at least once. Hundreds of thousands of restaurants in America alone, you couldn't get every restaurant in the country in 1 year. When a hobby becomes your identity, cutting back on the hobby feels like a personal failure. It feels like you're becoming less of who you are. If your social circle knows you as the car guy, whatever kind of car, if you're the guy with the Benz, Trading down to a more sensible vehicle isn't just a smart financial move. It feels like a public admission of defeat. Like, I just couldn't afford that motherfucker, so I had to trade down. If your identity is the art collector, passing on a piece of art at an auction feels like a compromise of your very essence. Are you having money problems? That's why you had to sell your favorite piece. This makes it incredibly difficult to make rational financial decisions. You are no longer just budgeting for entertainment. You're now funding your self-concept. And that's a battle that your spreadsheet will lose every single time. Because take it, look, I had to teach you guys about frugal spending, making sure that you guys only buy what you need. More often than not, I come to this show in reasonably a suit. Now, if I was to build the image of the guy in the suit, and then I were to maintain that image by wearing a different three-piece suit every day, that would put me in 365 different three-piece suits in a year. And if I had to buy each one of those suits, even at $100 a suit, right, it starts becoming a lot of money. This is going to be where we have to draw a critical line. Now, research suggests that hobbies are incredibly good for you, supporting mental well-being and reducing stress. Engaging in creative activities can lead to an improved sense of well-being and can even boost problem-solving skills at work. They are very powerful antidotes to burnout, which is one of the reasons why a lot of major companies have family day and sports leagues and stuff to that effect to kind of aid with, you know, your ability to function on the job. We've also talked about on the show multiple times that when you're going to another country and you're trying to like plant roots and find the right people, that finding hobbies, finding shared hobbies is one of the best ways to go about doing it. Instead of just saying that you like whatever the other person likes, you actually find that person while doing something that both of you like to do. The trap is not having the hobby. The trap snaps shut the moment that your motivation shifts from healthy internal drives like mastery, stress relief, or genuine connection to the toxic external drivers of social comparison and status acquisitions. Take, for example, I do this podcast on a regular basis, but one of the things that I have refused to do in real time is self-identify as a podcaster. When people ask me what I do, you know, I talk about the real estate business, I talk about teaching, I talk about everything except for this podcast. If this podcast comes up in a conversation, it's because I talked about that topic that we're talking about on this podcast, where I've had this discussion before. But it's not, oh, I'm a podcaster. No. The only way that somebody in my reality would know that I'm a podcaster is if they watch my show. If I'm not famous enough for them to say, I know you, I've seen your podcast, then clearly we're not talking about what I do until you start talking about overnight stays and weekend excursions and stuff to that effect. And then I'll start explaining that the work that I do takes up my daily evening from this time to this time, and I'm not available at that time. By the time we get to the move-in phase, you will realize I'm a podcaster. Part of where my money comes from, right? Or at least that's where it's supposed to be. But even as a podcaster, paying for the platform, paying for the software, paying for the computers, paying for the advertisement, it's still a level of investment that if it doesn't have a return on investment that pays for itself, it is a financial loss, right? Some people dismiss content creators. Some people think the content creators are rich. At the end of the day, a lot of them start out spending more money than they make for an extended period of time. So when they do start getting a return on their investment, they are literally reimbursing themselves for all of the years that they didn't make a dollar. So it is a very difficult startup. In these scenarios, the joy stops coming from the activity itself and starts coming from the validation the activity gets you online, right? The hobby stops being your refuge and starts being your stage. And this is going to be where the quiet, nagging anxiety about your expensive hobby gets a voice. This is going to be where we look at the numbers, not in the same abstract, boring way, but in the concrete language of your future freedom. The financial mechanics of the rich hobby trap are devastating because they work silently, compounding against your assets year over year for decades. So let's start with one of the most important concepts in financing, which is opportunity cost. We covered this a couple days ago, matter of fact, recently. Every dollar you spend today is a dollar that you can invest tomorrow. Simple enough, right? But what's harder to see is the ghost of the money that dollars would have become. This is the magic of compounding growth. So an invested dollar doesn't just sit there, it earns returns, and those returns earn their own returns, creating an exponential curve of wealth. The more you put in at higher interest rates, the more you get out, right? So let's apply this to the trap. Imagine two people, both of them same age, each of them got $20,000. Imagine the first person, tired of their old watch, has been eyeing a beautiful, luxurious $20,000 timepiece, right? He buys it, looks fantastic, gets a lot of compliments. It's a visible symbol of his success. $20,000 watch, that's more than a brand new car. Now, imagine the other guy also gets a bonus and is tempted to buy the same watch, but instead pauses and decides to invest that $20,000 in a simple low-cost index fund for, let's say, 8%, hypothetically, averaging annual returns. And remember, past performance, no guarantee for the future results, but for 25 years, the guy doesn't touch the money. He just puts it in there and leaves it there. They find themselves both 60, which is about 25 years later. What do you think their situation is going to be? Well, the first guy, 25-year-old watch. Let's be generous and say that the watch held its value, because actually a watch, just like a car, is a depreciating value until such time as they reach the antique status, and then and only then, if they're reasonably in mint condition outside of being worn, that they would have a higher value than what they would have had, equivalent to when they were sold fresh off the lot, right? So let's say that it retained its value really well. It didn't depreciate. And he still had the $20,000 asset, though it cost him money in insurance and services over the years. He still spent a little bit more than the regular $20,000, because yeah, you get a $20,000 watch, you're probably going to insure that fucker, because if something happens to it, if it breaks, you're going to want to get it fixed without having to pay exuberant quantities of money. If it gets stolen, you're going to want it to get replaced so that you don't have to lose out on a 20 grand watch. But let's say you paying, I don't know, $100 a month for the insurance for a $20,000 watch. It makes sense in the moment until you start thinking about $12,000 a year for 25 years. Or no, $1,200 a year for 25 years, where you'd have been spending like $25,000 over the course of 20 years on the $20,000 watch to insure it for 25 years, right? You would have effectively spent twice as much money to protect the watch over the 25 years that you had the watch. Now, imagine guy number two, the one that put the $20,000 in a high interest index fund, didn't mess with it anymore, didn't put anything else in it, grown nearly to $137,000. If you let that sink in for a second, guy number one buys a watch. Guy number two buys a significant down payment on a retirement home. He bought the freedom to retire a year or two early. He bought security. The other guy owns an object that tells time. And yes, at some point he can potentially sell it if he finds the right person that values that 25-year-old watch and is willing to pay the $20,000, maybe even $25,000 or $30,000 for the watch. You can get back a little bit of the money that you spent on the $25,000 or $30,000 worth of interest payment, or not interest, insurance payments that you paid to protect the watch. All right. And that, if he doesn't short sell the watch, because it just hit me, if he didn't short sell the watch, bringing it to a pawn shop, potentially only getting 50% of the value of the watch because you were trying to hawk it in an emergency. Where in that scenario, your $20,000 watch would probably go for $5,000 or $10,000. Think about that. Guy number two might own time itself. So while guy number one might own the watch that can tell you what time it is, guy number two owns the time itself. The true price of that $20,000 watch wasn't the $20,000. It was a $137,000 opportunity cost that he did not benefit from because he bought that watch. This is the brutal math of opportunity cost. And the rich hobby trap is rarely a single purchase. It's a series of reoccurring expenses that creates a constant bleeding wound in your ability to build wealth. This is going to lead us to the second mechanic, which is fixed cost fragility. Many rich hobbies aren't just one big purchase. They're a subscription to a high cost lifestyle. That golf club membership isn't a one-time fee, it's an annual due, locker fees, mandatory spending at the restaurants, the outfit, the golf clubs, the shoes. Tea time might not even be free either. The membership might be to get into the clubhouse, but you might actually still have to pay to reserve to get on the field. That show horse isn't just the purchase price. It's stabling, vet bills, training that can run into tens of thousands of dollars a year. That boat is not just the purchase, it's the slip fees, the maintenance, the insurance, the fuel. You get the idea. These are fixed costs. They show up every single month, whether you use the hobby or not. Take, those kids that are getting those $200,000 Hellcat Demons. It's a $200,000 car, right? You think it's just the car. No, it's the car. It's the maintenance. It's the 8 miles per gallon worth of gas that they get when they're hauling tail up the street, right? It's the tires that they got to replace when they're doing burnouts, showing off their car. It's the alignment that they got to get when they're drifting around corners. It's the body and fender repair that they get when they crash after they lose control of the vehicle. It's the tickets that they have to pay for when they get caught for doing all those stupid things on the street. The drag track to show off how fast their car goes. The track time, they got to pay for every time they get on the track, right? It's not just the item itself, it's the cost to maintain the image of having the item. So this is going to dramatically increase your financial break-even point, meaning that you need that high income just to service your lifestyle, not to get ahead. So now, because it costs so much to have this hobby, it costs so much to have this item, it costs so much to have this image, I need to put more work on the job. I need to make more money. I need to get a raise. I need to get a promotion. I need to get a second job. This makes you financially fragile. A job loss, a market downturn, or, God forbid, health issue can turn your dream lifestyle into a nightmare of bills that you cannot escape from. You've successfully built that golden cage with all the appearances of wealth, but none of the freedom. Finally, there's using debt to fuel the fire, which is always making a bad situation worse. Sometimes the pressure to keep up is so intense that people finance their status hobbies. They take out loans for the luxury cars or put their designer gear on a credit card. This is a financial poison. You are now paying interest on a depreciating asset. Okay. Oh my God. So we had a buddy come in and he managed to get himself blocked really quick. And I don't understand why he does that. But we've got wait, where did it go? I want to add another word in there. Save that. There we go. And there he goes again. Mute. All right. So back to the fun stuff. We were talking about the financial poison. I said y'all need to behave in this comment section. I was serious about that. You are now paying interest on a depreciated asset. That's where we left off. You're paying a premium to project an image of wealth while actively digging yourself into a deeper financial hole. Debt converts a fleeting pleasure into a long-term obligation. Handcuffing your future income to your past desires. And that's going to be one of the worst things that anybody could ever experience. The rich hobby trap rarely exists in a vacuum because it thrives in social context. It's an engine of escalation where the finish line is always moving just a little further away. The primary driver of this is your reference group, which is the people that you unconsciously compare yourself to. Usually, if you get into an Audi club, you might have an old school 2006 Audi. Some of the other people in the club might have a 2024 or 2026 Audi. You start comparing your car to their car, and then you start considering upgrading your car to get a newer model car. Just that simple. It might be your colleagues, it could be your neighbors, or more and more, the influencers that you follow online. It's crazy. It's less difficult when it's your colleagues at work because only what they tell you about them that you can validate is what you actually pay attention to. It's easier to deal with when it's your neighbors because unless you're living next to a very wasteful neighbor, it's within reason, right? Like everybody in my neighborhood owns everything that's out here. So the effort in which we put into keeping everything looking right, that's the effort in which everybody's property looks the same. Any one property that's not kept well enough is a property that we could all benefit from it being kept up better because property values are going to be based off of all of the houses within a reasonable zip code of the house that looks the worst, right? When your reference group starts normalizing extreme spending, that's when you have a problem. Take collectible trading card games, the biggest fad in the 90s, in the early 2000s. If you get in a group where very few people are buying trading cards, everybody's got reasonably the same quantity of cards, you guys trade back and forth, everybody's having a good time. You got big spenders in your group where they're buying cases of cards. They've got hundreds of thousands of collections of cards, and then they're coming back and showing you all the rares, all the foilies. You're compelled to go out and buy until you get a card yourself, whatever they've got. They might give you one of the older versions of the one that they've got, but you're compelled to go out and buy more of the ones that they don't have, or more of the ones that you don't have, whichever one comes first. Your own baseline for what is normal gets warped, right? So if everyone in your circle drives a German luxury sedan, a reliable Toyota suddenly feels inadequate. If everybody in your circle has a BMW or a Benz, you driving a Nissan doesn't feel right. If all your friends are posting photos from their annual Aspen ski trip, a weekend at a local hill feels like a settling, right? This is especially potent on social media, which is basically a 24/7 global Olympics of showing off, which is one of the reasons why I try my hardest not to post any of my personal life outside of the dogs on the channel. You know, you don't see the direction of travel, you don't see the roads, you don't see the cars, you don't see the houses, you don't see the business, you don't see anything that we talk about on the show, because the culture of showing off by comparison is something that I refuse to allow myself to get too far into. And this is because you're no longer just keeping up with the Joneses next door. You're trying to keep up with a curated, filtered version of thousands of Joneses from around the world. Research has shown a connection between social media use and this kind of conspicuous spending, often driven by the feeling of inadequacy or the fear of missing out and the desire to project a certain status. You see a post about a new watch. Y'all remember that Swatch that just came out with it was a concept collaboration between two brands, and everybody was running to the mall trying to spend hundreds of dollars at a time with it. They only had like 215 watches being sold, and you had several thousand people lining up by this store, and they would only give out a wristband to the first 200 something people, and then they'd be considered sold out, and everybody else would have to get escorted out of the mall by the police because they didn't want people lingering and causing chaos over the watches that did get sold. Think about it. It's just a watch. But you see the post about the watch. Now you want one. And a seed of desire is going to be planted just because of that. An algorithm. Because if you like, for example, I love classic cars. I love classic cars. 1950s models, 1960s, 1970s models. You linger on some of those videos of some of those classic cars, and guess what? An algorithm shows you an ad for an exclusive trip. You start to wonder about the trip. Why not me? They show you those cars. Oh man, I wish I could afford one. You start considering, I wonder if, because each one of these classic car things is like, oh yeah, you could buy it just $500 down and $300 a month, or $1,200 down and $500 a month. In-house finances, blah, 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 blah. Guess what you would be doing? Oh yeah, we ship it to your house. So you can be in any state in the country They're going to tack that shipping fee to your bill. They're going to charge you whatever they're going to charge you in interest. You're just going to keep giving them $500 a month until you pay them off, whether it's 2 years from now or 5 years from now. But guess what you're doing? You're taking on a $500 a month payment. If you own your own car and you want this classic car so bad because you see it online, you're willing to pay $500 extra dollars a month for a car that within 2 years, you're going to have to start fixing on the same way you have to fix on the 2 cars that you own, where you could have spent $500 a month fixing the cars in your driveway. You find yourself in a constant, implicit competition that you cannot possibly win. This leads to what I call social tax on visible wealth. When your success is highly visible, it creates new expectations. People see your expensive car and they make assumptions. Friends and family might ask for more money more often. Charities put you at the top of their call list. Your friends start suggesting more expenses. They start going to more expensive restaurants, assuming that you can afford it, expecting you to cover the cost. You feel a new pressure. You know, most of us, if I was to ask you guys right now, whether you're on YouTube or Twitch or TikTok, if I was to ask you right now, if you got $1 million today, what would you do with it? The majority of you would spend it. Doesn't matter if you spend it on yourself. Doesn't matter if you spend it on somebody that you value. The majority of you would spend it. Very few of you would invest it into something and then spend the interest. Right? Now, the other side of that question is, if you won $1 million, who's the first person you would tell? Somebody's got a best friend, somebody's got a close relative. I would tell nobody. The majority of you would tell somebody, who would in fact tell somebody else, where the word would get around that you've got $1 million. Now, as soon as people find out that you have $1 million that you have yet to spend, what do you think is going to happen? People are going to call to verify that you won that $1 million. Then once you verify that you won that $1 million, people are going to start talking to you about what they got going on in their lives and how they're hard up for money. If they don't directly ask you for the money, they're going to paint a picture of woe is me, if only I had a savior, to pull on your heartstrings for you to say, oh, I can give you the money so that you can get out of this simple situation. It always happens. But these will be the same people that never talk to you, that would never visit you, that would never cover your costs when you didn't have money. Fellas, win $1 million, all the females that would tell you no back in the day would be the exact same females calling you up, wondering how you doing. Let's go hang out. How you feeling? I'll come over. Not because they have a change of heart about you as a person, but because they have a change of heart about the resources and assets that you now have. Think about it now. When you start feeling that new pressure, the pressure to maintain the image that you've created, you become a prisoner of the expectations your own spending has set for you. Special shout out to V. I really appreciate that today. Saying no once you reach this point feels like you're failing to live up to the role that you've been casting, the role that you actually casted yourself for. This social tax is a real cost, an additional financial drain on top of the hobby itself, fueled by social pressure and funded by your future freedom. So at this point, you might be thinking, so are all expensive hobbies bad? Should I just sit at home and watch my bank account grow? Absolutely not. That would be a miserable existence. and it would ignore the evidence showing that the right hobbies are essential for happy, resilient lifestyles. The problem is not spending money on your leisure. The problem is the why and how. The solution is to become a conscious curator of your leisure time, separating the hobby that genuinely enriches your life from those that are merely expensive status performance. Just like when I told Steven, he said he wanted to buy a Benz so that he could impress the freshmen on his college campus. It's because he was buying the Benz, not because the Benz had value to him. He was buying the Benz so that the Benz would have value to someone else. I told him that was a bad buy. The $9,000 that you would spend on a Benz, you could spend that $9,000 on your Toyota and potentially rebuild it from the ground up. Again, Nissan Versas are like $8,000 to $10,000. So the $9,000 you spend on a used Benz, it could be a brand new Nissan Versa. And any person who's walking and values the fact that you will offer them a ride would value the fact that you're picking them up in a brand new Nissan Versa versus valuing the fact that you're picking them up in a Benz. Because either way, they're not walking. Think about that. So how do you tell the difference between enriching your life with value versus the expensive status performance? Let's run a little diagnostic test on your hobbies. Ask yourself these questions with brutal honesty. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, all the way down to drinking with the homies. Ask yourself these questions. Question number one, why am I really doing this? You know, those of us who either drink or smoke socially, social drinkers, social smokers, got nothing against them. But imagine, do you smoke because you like to? Or do you smoke because a group that you're in smokes so much that you're going to get got by the secondhand smoke, so you might as well just hit the J when it passes your way, right? Do you drink because you like to drink, like you would ultimately drink by yourself? Or do you only drink with people who buy the alcohol and they pass you drinks because they can't drink alone, so you just drink with them? This isn't even about you buying that shit. This is like, really think, do you do it because that's what you personally would do even if nobody else was doing it with you? Or are you doing it because you're in a group of people that's doing it too? And because they are pressuring you to do it with them. That's like one of the first questions you got to think about. Like, oh shit. Because you know what? If I decided to quit doing that, what would I end up having to do? Get new friends, because those friends smoke all the time. Those friends drink all the time. If I had friends that were gamblers and I could go hang out with my gambling friends at the casino and they might throw a few chips my way and we can go back and forth with drinks and have a good time when I'm doing what they're doing. But if I decide that I'm going to quit gambling, guess what? I'm never hanging out with those friends, because where are they? At the casino, where I don't want to be. Right? So you got to ask yourself, why am I doing this? That's a really important question. The first question off the top of your head. And funniest thing, I just thought about this. Isn't that the first question that your parents asked you before they beat your ass? When you was a kid, when you got into some stuff that you wasn't supposed to get yourself into, and the first thing your parents asked you was, why did you do that? There was no right answer. You would always say, I don't know. And that was the worst answer to give, because you didn't even have a valid reason for doing it. And that's what you got the whooping for. Not because you went out there and did it, but because you had no valid reason to do it. You were doing it because everybody else was doing it. And what's the first thing your parents come and tell you? Oh, well, if your friends jumped off a cliff, would you do it too? I raised a leader, not a follower. Monkey see, monkey do. Y'all have heard all of those. So as adults, why are we still doing it? Ask yourself that question. Why am I really doing this? Is your motivation coming from inside or outside? A healthy hobby is driven by joy, passion, or the desire to learn. A rich hobby trap is driven by the desire for recognition and status. If you couldn't post a picture of it online, would you still spend the money on it? If I wanted to go on a vacation for the sake of going on a vacation, I would go on a vacation. If I talked about it in passing, you would never see a photo, you would never see a video because I went for me. I didn't go for y'all. If I went for y'all, check out my live, check out my video, check out my pictures from when I did X, Y, and Z so that I could get a million views off of you watching in another country. If I'm going live every day of the week, because that's what I said I was going to do for my podcast, and I just so happened to go live in a different location, I'm not going live because I want you to know I'm in another location. I'm going live because I said that I would go live every day of the week, and no matter where I am, I end up going live as long as I have internet. Which, again, is a hindrance because now I must go to a place that has internet when I travel to other countries so that I can go live. So you already know, first thing I got to do is budget for internet. Crazy, right? So if you decided that you would not have spent the money on that item had you not been taking pictures of it and posting it online or posing with it on a live stream, then it might be a rich hobby trap. A lot of us that are WWE fans that want to get those WWE replicas, a lot of us you see so many people putting their replicas online now. They're not for sale, but like they're showing off and posing with them. They're doing all these little skits with them and stuff to that effect. You know, hands down, they bought it to do that. Very rarely did they buy it for the sake of buying it, because if they would have bought it for the sake of buying it, guess what they would not have done? Made a video with it, because they would have just had it. Question number 2, what matters most in this hobby? Is it the gear or the experience? In a healthy hobby, the experience is what matters. The gear is just a tool. In a rich hobby trap, the visible signifiers are what matters most. The brand name, the exclusive venue, the logos. The gear becomes the centerpiece, a substitute for skills. Let's go back to those collectible trading cards. It's not about the fact that you play the game. It's about you having the rare. It's about you having the foil. It's about you having the one unstoppable card that trumps every other deck in the league. Now it's not about just enjoying the game with the other people in the room. Now it's about buying a specific pack that has a specific card in it that you can add to your deck to make your deck reasonably considered unstoppable. Think about that. Question number 3, does the spending have to keep escalating? Before we even talk about the difference between the two here, let's imagine those folks that are in those car competitions. You're not just buying a car and working on a car because you like working on cars as a hobby. You're doing custom paint, custom rims, custom tint, custom body kits. Then you're towing them or driving them to specific locations where you're putting mirrors under the car to show the custom chrome exhaust and all of this other stuff, where you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, where the parts start getting more and more expensive. You went from fixing the car for yourself because you value an antique car and you want to drive that antique car, you want to work on an antique car for yourself, a self-accomplishment, something you probably used to do with your father or something to that effect, to putting enough money into this car for the people who see this car to like this car. Think about the fact that a healthy hobby usually has a cost ceiling. You buy a good guitar or a solid pair of hiking boots, and you can enjoy that hobby for years with minimal extra spending. In a rich hobby trap, the spending is a moving target. There are always going to be levels to this shit. The next level of gear to buy to maintain your status is going to cost more than the last level. The spending is chronic, not a one-time event. Think about pay to win video games. In order for you to be number one on a leaderboard, you have to spend more money than everybody else. You get somebody with deeper pockets than you become number two. In order for you to stay number one, you have to now increase your spending in order to beat out number one. So, question number 4, does it build resilience or fragility? And resilience doesn't mean like bodybuilders, it makes me strong, because those bodybuilders spend a lot of money working on their body. They don't just spend all day, every day at the gym pumping weights. They've got supplements. They've got extra equipment that they have to utilize outside of the gym. They have different diets. They spend a lot of extra money on a lot of other things. Then buying clothes for themselves is way more expensive than the average person because they don't have the average build. So they cannot get straight off the rack attire. They have to get custom built clothing, which costs more money. And then they have to get flex fit, custom fit clothing, because if they move a bicep or tricep the wrong way, they didn't bust out of their clothes like the Incredible Hulk, which means that they replace clothes more often. So even bodybuilders have to think about the difference between, does it build resilience financially or fragility? A healthy hobby often is going to build some resilience for you. It's going to teach you patience. It's going to give you a way to de-stress. A rich hobby trap often builds fragility because it's going to add financial pressure. It's going to create anxiety. And that anxiety is going to be about keeping up with the other people in that exact same culture, adding stress rather than relieving it. You've ever been on a vacation where you did so much stuff, you came back from the vacation more tired than what you was when you left? The hell was you doing all that shit for? Vacation is so that you can stop applying yourself. What you applying more to your vacation for than what you applying to your day-to-day job, so that you could experience so many different things that you can talk about with other people when you came back. Take pictures of everywhere you was and everything that you did, so that you can show people when you get back that you had a very eventful vacation. But you know how eventful your vacation would have been if you would have slept? That would have been more beneficial to you. Would have been no photos, but it would have been more beneficial to you. Think about that. Question number 5 is going to be, how flexible is it if your income changes? Sometimes a hobby, if you can afford it, is a reasonable hobby. Certain things like running doesn't cost you $1. But when you think about a healthy hobby, is usually scalable, something that you can increase if you have more money or decrease if you have less money. If you have a tough year, you can still go hiking or play your guitar. The same activity itself is still low cost. A rich hobby is often an inflexible scenario. The club dues are still going to be due even if you can't afford them. The car payment is a non-negotiable even if you can't afford it. It becomes a source of extreme stress precisely when you need a healthy outlet the most. Question number 6, is it mostly private or mostly performed? And what do I mean by that? Private means that you do it by yourself. You don't care if anybody's watching. Half the time, nobody even know what you're doing. Perform is when you have to project to other people that you are performing this particular task, that you have to take photos of it, you have to take videos of it, you have to show those videos to the people that you know in person, where you recorded it on your phone. You're like, oh, hey, look, this is me doing X, Y, and Z, or posting it up online so that people you don't know can see what you do in your personal life. A healthy hobby is something that you do even if nobody saw you doing it. The joy is supposed to be for yourself. A rich hobby is a trap at its core, and it is a performance because it requires an audience. The joy depends on the reaction of others. When you're doing something like when Steven said he was going to buy the Benz to get freshmen. Hey, if he did get freshmen because of the car, he would be proud of the fact that he got the car. But what if he got the car and all the girls that he talked to would have preferred that he got a G-Wagon? He would have been disappointed because the goal was to get girls, not to get a car that he values. It's just like I've seen a video online where this mother, it went downhill after that. Started talking about how she bought her kid a pair of Jordans. First problem, branded clothes. And the child didn't like the shoes because the kids at the school was making fun of the child for the kind of shoes that he had, calling them Mexican Jordans. So the mom asked the dad, what's going on with the shoes? And the dad verified, yeah, the shoes are usually identified as that because they're like, I think they're like Jordan 6 rings or some stuff like that. And I'm sitting over here looking like, you spent $200 on a pair of shoes and that's what you're worried about is what other people think about them. So now the mom is offering to buy a different pair of Jordans for the kid so that the kid isn't picked on by other kids in the school. Me, myself, I would have two options. Either take my kid out of that school and put him in another school since he's clearly being bullied by his peers, or go talk to a school to put a stop to the bullying, if at all possible. And if it's not possible, again, I'd default back to take my kid out of that school and put him in another school. Why am I spending $200 something for somebody else's badass child to validate my child at school? My child should be lucky he got shoes on his feet. Because, like, y'all remember what our parents used to tell us back in the day? There's somewhere on the other side of the world, they got children that don't got what I got, right? You better eat that. There's children in Africa that don't have a meal to eat right now. You better wear that. You got your homeless people, children don't got clothes. You know, y'all, we used to always get told that stuff when we was growing up. I don't know why the fuck that shit stopped. But why is my child, this woman sitting up here, why is the child sitting over here, you know, oh, you know, my classmates are picking on me because my Jordans are not the Jordans that they prefer. What? They didn't even buy them. Who gives a fuck what they think? Shit. But for a child now, I don't know, 10, 12, 14, I don't know. Or for a child that age, you should have bought 4 pairs of shoes for $50 a piece. Fuck Jordans. That's what I'm saying. Kids wouldn't have shit to say. He would have had a regular pair of shoes on his damn feet. Yeah. Matter of fact, you could have got him a pair of Nikes, Reeboks, some Skechers, or something like that. Still a brand of shoes for like $40. And then took the other $150 and got him a bicycle and let him ride his bike to school where everybody else is riding a bus. They would have been jealous that they don't get that kind of freedom. I don't know. When it requires an audience, the joy depends on the reaction of others. You got to understand that that is not what you want for yourself, and that's not what you want to teach your kids. So you want to take some time, you want to run your hobbies through this test, whatever it is that you like to do. Same thing, like Steven said, he likes to buy Jordan. I mean, Nikes. He's a very big Nike. And I appreciate the fact that he's got a very big portfolio on top of this because he invests in his future. But ask him, he's got more shoes than he can wear in a year, right? So are you buying these shoes for yourself, or are you buying these shoes because you like the way people compliment you when you wear those shoes? That's the question that you ask. Not, is it a waste of money because I have too many shoes? Because you can be a shoe fanatic. You can buy 1,000 pairs of the same shoe in different colors because that's what you want. And there's no problem with that. But if you bought 1,000 shoes so that you can wear a different pair of shoes 1,000 days in a row, so that the people that you wear those shoes in front of can compliment the fact that you never wear the same shoe twice, Now it's an image of external validation. That's a problem. You want to understand your true motivation. That's going to be the first and most important step in disarming the trap. Recognizing the trap is going to be one thing, but escaping it requires a fundamental shift in your mindset, followed by a set of practical rules. So make sure that you guys like and subscribe. Mash those reaction buttons while you're still here, because we got a lot of things we're about to go through here. So this is not going to be about deprivation. It's going to be about intentionality, right? It's about deciding your money will be a tool for your freedom, not fuel for public performance. The core of the trap is confusing looking rich with being wealthy. They are not the same thing. In fact, they're often opposites. Visible wealth is what you see: the luxury car, the designer clothes, the sprawling house. It's loud, it's impressive, and designed to signal success. It buys admiration. I remember back when I was in college and I bought $13,000 worth of suits. Every outfit I wore turned heads. I used to go have a photo shoot every time I left the house because nobody ever seen suits like that. And I wore them year round. I didn't care what the weather was. I was silk and satin all the time. I did it because I liked shiny. I didn't do it because I give a fuck about what everybody else did. I still wear those clothes today because I still like shiny. I don't give a fuck. Matter of fact, this is one of the blazers from one of the suits. I didn't give a fuck what other people thought about the outfit. But had I bought it because I wanted people to like me, if I did not get the positive return, I would have felt like it was a waste of money. And that's what you have to think about when you're spending on yourself. Wealth is what you don't see. The robust investment portfolio quietly compounding in the background, the fully funded emergency fund, the absence of debt. Invisible wealth is going to be quiet. It doesn't get likes on Instagram, but it buys you something infinitely more valuable than admiration. It buys you options. It buys you security. It buys you freedom. What if you had a gas card with no limit on it? You didn't even have to pay it. You just get as much gas as you need. How many people would you tell that you had it? A lot of people would tell just about everybody. You do a lot, how you got it, where you got it from. But have you ever heard of trade secrets? Trade secret is having an inside scoop on ways for you personally to benefit in the situation that you're in that nobody else knows about. You typically do not release trade secrets until you are no longer in the trade. Why? Because the secrets that you hold is your leverage in life. You know where to go to get free gas. You don't tell anybody. Why? Because if everybody knew, it would no longer be free. Because how many people will let free gas go on a regular basis? If it's just one person, it might be all right. But when it starts being 100,000 people, things start changing. You got to think about that. A person with high visible wealth and low invisible wealth is fragile. The one job loss away from disaster. A person with high invisible wealth, even if it's modest, that's resilient. They have the power to say no. They have the freedom to walk away from a toxic job, start a business for themselves, or weather any storm. You have to recognize, like, if you working on a job where your boss be talking to you disrespectfully and you let that ride, you let it ride because you need the money. You get paid on Friday. You got bills to pay on Monday, right? But if you had enough money to sustain your standard of living while you went and found you another job, as soon as your boss look at you sideways, you be off that motherfucker, not coming back. The difference is having the affordability. Take, most of us are working in a field right now that is starting to become competitive with technology, AI, artificial intelligence, right? Now, recognize we are not trying to find another job because we can't afford to transition. But on this show, most Tuesdays out of a month, I tell you guys different ways that you can start up businesses online and get paid off of the computer on your time off, where you can replace your 40-hour-a-week job with a 20-hour-a-week side hustle off the computer, subsidize your income, and essentially replace working for big business to working for yourself, because big business will replace you as soon as the machines from Tesla that are humanoid robots start performing well enough to replace human beings. And it's in most mediocre jobs, most standard performance jobs, all the way down to rideshare. Look at what's going on. Uber and Lyft used to be one of the best jobs to get for people who wanted fast cash on the side, or people who just didn't want their money on front page. And now they have to protest because they're being charged more money than they're making. They're driving all over the place and they don't have a dollar to show for it because they're spending more money on gas than what they're getting paid off of their jobs. They're not able to get as many tips as they used to, right? The market is oversaturated, so you might spend 8 hours out of the day, and instead of getting your $150, $200 an hour worth of rides, now you're stuck with probably $10 or $15 an hour worth of rides, where you're basically getting minimum wage all day long before you take gas out. Then Uber and Lyft is now competing with driverless rideshare companies, which will in fact minimize the driver's experience, because I mean, if there are two different companies out there that doesn't have a driver, and the cost to ride in those vehicles are going to be significantly less than the cost to ride in an Uber or a Lyft. Think about how much cheaper it was when we went from yellow cab with the cab company to Uber and Lyft with personal vehicles. The cab company lost a significant quantity of money, and those drivers essentially lost their jobs. When people start paying more money towards driverless cars, people who are driving for a living are no longer going to have those jobs. Same thing with the truckers. Michael always says, get a CDL, get a CDL, but they're putting driverless trucks on the road right now. They only got like 400 of them out there, but you know, give it 10 years, 15, 20 years, and they continue to compound those driverless cars. As they increase the quantity of driverless rigs out there for CDL drivers, it starts becoming harder and harder for you to get another job, because you get paid by the trip. You don't have a guaranteed hourly wage job. You get paid by the trip, per mile, per minute. That's what you get paid by. So if you drop off this load and there's 30 trucks taking the next load, what load do you have next? You don't. So most of us fail to say, well, shit, I don't want to work for somebody else my whole life until I retire. I want to work for myself until I retire. We do not have the financial security, more often than not, to change from working for somebody else to working for ourselves. It is easier for us to change from working for one person in the same industry to working for someone else in the same industry and pray that they will give us a 50 cent or a dollar raise to start with experience. The difference between stealth wealth and loud wealth is that loud wealth, you can't afford to transition. Stealth wealth, you can. The security of having a financial backing, you can say, fuck this job, right? So the first step is to fall in love with building invisible wealth. You're going to have to internalize this truth. Visible wealth impresses other people. Invisible wealth protects you and your family. So your goal shifts from acquiring stuff to acquire optionality. Filter every purchase through this lens. Is this buying me a temporary status symbol, or is it buying me permanent freedom? When I bought that second car that I had bought, and I actually bought the car in 2024. I bought the first one in 2023. I bought the second one in 2024. Both of those cars are 20 something years old right now. They're old, right? But I bought the second car because the first car had a transmission problem. I still drive the second car today. The first car I drove when I put the second car in the shop because of a power steering problem. The first car is still in my driveway, sitting next to the second car. Now, yes, I have to do a head job on it and a transmission job right now, but I own both vehicles. There's no payments. I can just take the registration off the vehicle, drop the insurance off the vehicle, let it sit in the yard till I feel like fixing it. I own both of them. Did I buy either vehicle for its status symbol? One is considered a luxury model and the other one's more of an economy car, but no, that was just the best car on the lot. Reasonable mileage, high performance, that's what I grabbed. The other vehicles on the lot did not have the quality that these vehicles had. So I did an excellent job with collecting what I wanted to collect, not because I wanted the status symbol, because I wanted the performance, because I wanted the convenience, because I wanted the dependability. And them old school bad boys, they get me everywhere I need to be. I'm driving cross country with them. Whereas some of the other vehicles may not have done that. A mindset shift is a powerful but much needed action. So, without thought, or thought without action, is going to be like faith without work. You can't have it. So here's going to be practical rules that you guys can use to avoid falling into some of these traps. Rule number one, you want to automate your freedom fund first. We always say pay yourself first. The pay yourself first method really revolves around specifically dedicating a specific quantity of money. And I said specific twice because it is really important that you do this, a specific quantity of money towards your future self, your retirement, your long-term standard of living first, whether it's $50 a month, $100 a month, $500 a month, take that out first. If you do it before you pay any bills, a portion of your income should automatically be transferred to your investments in your savings accounts. Now, let's be honest and let's be real about this particular method. You are not over investing to the magnitude where you don't have enough money to pay your bills. You understand what the total cost of your base bills are. And base bills is not subscriptions, it's not memberships, it's not luxury anything, it is not entertainment of any kind. It is just a basic standard of living that you need to survive. The ability to feed yourself, keep your clothes clean, pay all your utilities, car insurance, gas for the car, rent or your mortgage, phone bill. That's it. Base bills. Anything above that is up for grabs. But if you've got a $500 gap between your base bills and your total income, you can take the whole $500 out, but you take it out before you start paying bills. And why do you do that? Because the moment that you get a raise or a bonus, the very first thing that you're going to do is you're going to increase the amount of money that you automatically transfer out. Because the base standard of living is covered under the base bills that's left behind after you do the withdrawal. If the money never hits your checking account long enough for you to see it and spend it, you will be far less tempted to spend it. And when you decide to make a payment for something, you have to consciously decide to not invest that money in order to ensure that your base standard of living is covered. So now you have to validate it for yourself instead of just reactionary going with the flow and impulse purchases. Rule number 2, you want to enforce a cooling off period. And I talked to you about this yesterday and the day before. The desire for a status purchase is often an emotional impulse. To fight this, you want to create a mandatory 30-day waiting period for anything expensive. Any non-essential purchase over $250, $500, something to that effect. You want to buy a new iPhone. It's like $1,500, $1,600, $1,700. Yeah, sit on that for a couple months. And if you still want to buy that new iPhone and you budgeted the money for it, swing it. You might find that your new iPhone might come with a deal where you can upgrade your old iPhone and you only have to pay the taxes on the new iPhone of like 150, 200 bucks. And then they give you a rebate that pays your monthly membership fee for the iPhone for the next 18 to 24 months. Sure. Catch it on a special. But don't just run out there and go and get it because they said new release. Y'all see what they're doing with GTA 6, right? Shit, I was always on the next GTA 6, but when they said no disc, I was like, shit, I'm probably gonna miss that. Because the one thing you're not about to do is sell me a membership fee to play solo on this console. That's not gonna work for me. It would have been a fantastic thing if they would have sold you the original disc and then they would have had you do like DLCs and online gameplay and added stuff for the thing over time where they don't have to release a GTA 7. They just have to release an expansion that's called GTA 7 where it's built on top of GTA 6. That would have been fantastic. But when they said no disc, I was like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I would have paid $80 for the disc to play it by myself offline. But if I got to get online and pay the monthly membership for online just so that I can use their thing, I'm like, nah, that's not going to work for me. It's not going to work for me at all. You want to put it on a list of things, like a wish list of things that you wish you could buy, but don't buy it. More often than not, after about 30, 45 days, 2-3 months, the intense desire to buy it will fade. You can make a more rational decision. You may always subconsciously want that item, but you do not have the willpower to take action on that desire because you have no value in that purchase. Rule number 3, treat reoccurring costs as long-term liabilities. A one-time splurge won't derail you unless it's too expensive. But a new reoccurring cost will. Before signing up for a club membership or a car lease, you want to calculate its total annual cost. Then you want to multiply that by 10 years. That is a rough estimate of the financial drag that this particular purchase will create on the next decade of your life. It's that membership that you have to ask yourself, is it really worth $50,000 of your future for a membership? Is it really worth $50,000 of your future? Some people might be like, hell no, not 50 grand. When you're looking at it all at once, this helps you see a small monthly fee for what it really is, a significant financial liability. Rule number 4, prioritize low-cost, high-skill hobbies. Actively seek out hobbies where the barrier to entry is simply knowledge and practice, not money. And when we talk about skills, we're not necessarily talking about like gaming skills. We're talking about practical skills that you could potentially utilize to make money, right? So you want to think of things like learning a new instrument, coding, writing, drafting emails, drawing, cooking, or gardening. They have a modest initial cost and then provide nearly infinite satisfaction at a very low ongoing expense. Because take, for example, if you learn how to cook, if you don't cook and you're eating TV dinners all the time, you're eating fast food takeout all the time, then you start learning how to cook where you can cook more nutritious meals. You can spread the meals out over several days. You can start taking $100 worth of food and spreading it across 7 days instead of having $100 worth of food last you for 3. Instead of having $15 a meal at a fast food restaurant, you start having $4 a plate at the house. Or even better, $2 a plate with 2 plates a meal at the house, where you're actually full when you get up from the dinner table instead of still being hungry when you get up from the dinner table. Rule number 5, you want to track your net worth, not just your spending. And this is something that not a lot of people think about. Budgeting is going to be useful, but your net worth, something that Michael said yesterday, is your assets, the stuff that brings you profits or the stuff that you can sell to bring you profits, minus your liabilities, the things that cost you money, is the ultimate measure of financial health. That's something that you got to think about, your net worth. So when you think about like MC Hammer went bankrupt back in the 90s, but he's valued at $5 million right now because the quantity of stuff and reoccurring capital that he has coming in right now is at the magnitude of, after he pays off all of his debts, he still has about $5 million worth of assets accessible to him. So he's not broke, he's just rich broke. You want to track that number every month. When your primary goal becomes making that number go up, you're naturally becoming more skeptical of large purchases that make that number go down. So say, for example, my homeboy said he wanted to be a millionaire. Fantastic thought process. But in wanting to be a millionaire, you would have to spend more time not buying stupid things and less time hanging out with people that want to encourage you to spend more money. Then redirect all of the extra money that you're not spending into other things. He texts $20 in the comment section. It doesn't work that way. You actually have to put the $20 in there. Then he did the $2. It doesn't work there either. You still got to put the $2 onto the thing. So you'd have to throw like $2 worth of the diamonds or gems or whatever it is that they have of the currency on TikTok in there in order for it to be on the show. But I appreciate you texting that amount. It does not substitute the actual cash transaction, though. Which, if you find this information valuable, you probably should. But I would also tell you that the membership over on the YouTube side of the platform is actually like, I think, $5 a month, $4 or $5 a month. So you would get way more out of the monthly membership than what you would throwing me $10 a day. But you want to throw me $10 a day, just note the platform takes half of it. I'm just gonna be real. Now, if the conversation about hidden traps in our financial lives is resonating with you guys, you want to make sure that you subscribe to the channel. And I'm going to have a question with you guys, and I want to make sure that you guys leave a comment in the comment section. I want you to share one hobby that you found that brings you immense joy or peace without breaking the bank. It needs to be an appropriate one, because I know that I see a lot of y'all reckless over on TikTok side of things. Y'all be throwing something in the comment that be trying to get you canceled before it gets me canceled. I want to create a resource for the community to find fulfilling hobbies that builds us up instead of tearing us down financially. So your suggestions could genuinely help someone else discover a whole new passion. So today we began with the image of a cage, a comfortable, expensive cage built with the rewards of our own success. It's a powerful metaphor because the trap doesn't feel like a prison. The bars are gilded, the amenities luxurious. From the outside, it looks like a castle, but a cage is still a cage. The great irony is when you're looking at rich hobby traps, this is going to be when you use the money that should be buying your freedom to purchasing more sophisticated obligations. We earn more, and instead of feeling lighter, we feel heavier, constrained by the lifestyle that we now have to maintain. Escaping this cycle doesn't require a vow of poverty. It just doesn't need to be that way. It requires a declaration of independence. It's the realization that true wealth is about what your money can buy. Instead, what can it create? It should be creating options for you. It should be able to create resilience for you. It should be able to create the freedom to say no to the things that don't matter or devalue you so that you can say a resounding yes to the things that do matter and do value you. Make enough on this show and I make enough doing the things that I do where I can literally say no to somebody offering me a few $100s to make me look like a fool. At the end of the day, I don't need it that bad because I get enough from somewhere that I can cover it if I don't get what I was supposed to get from the person that's not giving me what I was supposed to get, right? But even just assuming that I was supposed to get that is a level of self-entitlement developed from the experience of getting, right? Think about that. This works every which way. I come from a uniform perspective. So the ultimate luxury is not going to be a sports car or some kind of Switch watch. The ultimate luxury is waking up in the morning and being able to say that I can do whatever I want with my day, not so much with my money. It is having a walk away fund that gives you leverage to negotiate every aspect of your employment. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing that you are secure and free. Hell, it's having enough money backing you up to leverage negotiating in your relationship. So what's the hardest part about a breakup when you guys live together? It's knowing that you just paid the rent with your last dollar and now your partner's acting up where you wish you could leave, but you can't afford it. But if you had enough financial backing, your partner would not be able to utilize the fact that you spent your last dollar on their house and now you have to find somewhere else to go. You could just leave, right? So the next time that you are tempted to buy a shiny object, that symbol of success, you want to ask yourself a simple question. Am I buying a temporary performance for an audience, or am I buying a permanent piece of my own freedom? Because the richest life isn't the most visible one. The richest life is the one with the most options. Choose to be a life of rich in freedom, not just in things. That is a richness no amount of money can buy, but only your money spent wisely can build it. And I just want to tell you guys, it is equivalent to the feeling and observation of being what we would call hood rich. You guys know what hood rich is, right? Even if you ain't got no money, your neighborhood take care of you. You are rich in a culture of people that will cover what you don't have so that you don't need the money to get it for yourself. All you have to do is just pass by somebody in that culture and tell them what you're missing, and they'll bring it to you. That's hood rich. Now, if we take that same aspect and put it into your actual rich life, You don't need to worry about what you don't have, because all you have to do is point at it and your money will be able to get it for you, because the things that you need, you have already packed away more than enough money to cover that. The only thing you have to recognize right now is that as you get older, the things that you need are going to be more and more medical. And anyone needs to find a way to start putting away some money to cover their medical expenses for when they get older. Whatever your insurance may not cover. We had Sterling on the show last month and the month before talking about how his Ozempic wasn't covered by his health insurance from his job. He's not the only person in this country who can't afford their medication. He is under the age of 65, but he can't afford his medication. By the time he makes it to 65 or 70, his need for that medication is going to be higher, which means that he would have to either make enough money to cover it or spend less money on his standard of living so that his fixed income can cover it, which makes the life harder. If you yourself recognizing that you're healthy and able-bodied right now and don't need that type of money for your health care, you can put that type of money away in a health savings account that is tax advantaged in a multitude of ways, where you can build on your future need for medical treatment, where one or two things can work out. You can either pay higher premiums for an insurance policy that's a 100% no copay, where they pay for everything and you pay the monthly premiums and you get whatever you need just by walking into the door, or you can have a copay and have the extra capital to cover the things that the insurance policy doesn't cover. Whichever one you decide to do. But like we talk about every Wednesday, different countries around the world that you can invest in, having an international policy that covers the convenience of private care. That's the kind of thing that prepares you for your future. And I'm just being real, like a lot of the times we don't think about this until it is time. But if you start putting money away for it right now, just like when I told you guys about if I had kids, I'd be teaching them how to invest in their prom at the first grade. If you're putting money away for 12 years, from kindergarten till senior prom, by the time you get to senior prom, you should have plenty of money for your prom. You should have plenty of money for your first car. If you're taking your senior prom money and putting it on your first car freshman year, like, you know, the sacrifice of getting a car now is going to take away from whatever you're going to do for prom later, but at least teaching them the ability to value what you're getting for yourself now and then appreciating what you did later. When you can benefit 12 years later from your efforts 12 years ago, that's when you start having high value in yourself. Your self-esteem is going to be a whole lot higher. When I can say 10 years from now, where I am in 10 years is because of what I was doing today. And I'm proud of that. That means I'm doing a good job. But think about every photo, every video, every scenario where your friends have shown you a photo or a video of you from back in the day, and you were completely embarrassed about that photo or that video, and you at some point in time asked or pleaded with them to not post that. If your past self embarrasses you, that's because your ass wasn't acting right back in the day. Now that you know that today, you need to proactively put 4 steps today to make sure that you don't embarrass yourself for the future. So that's all we've got for tonight. We're going to start by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. For those who get us watching us on TikTok, we typically go live every night of the week between 11:30 and 11:45. And then we run it for a few hours. So we're always going to be here every night of the week. Make sure that you guys tiptoe and stop by. Fellas, I give you this information to make you guys higher value men, not just by increasing your financial life, but also by improving your decision-making skills. Ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can make yourselves higher value women. You just have to find the things in your life that are inside of your control, proactively improve the things that you don't like, and then navigate around things that are outside of your control. Now, I tell everybody to focus on your 20 and 30-year plan. Reverse engineer that into what you need to do today in order to accomplish those goals. And then, ladies, I tell you to make sure that you prioritize the potential suitor with the right personality and characteristics, the right drive, ambition, dedication, motivation, admiration, and integrity to focus on his goals, to complete his goals, and then see how his goals mesh with your goals. Because if both of you have similar goals that are heading in the same direction, you guys would likely benefit from helping each other accomplish each other's goals. But you're looking for two long-term gratification or long-term satisfaction goals instead of short-term gratification goals. You do not want to have short-term gratification to compromise your long-term goals. And I tell you guys that if you find the right person, two people can make it to $1 million faster than one, but it really requires you to both have similar financial values. Because if one of you is planning for the future and one of you is living in the moment, you guys will always be fighting over resources. So that's all I got for you guys for tonight. Like I said, I'm going to start off by saying special shout out to OG Kicks, Michael, FX Trader, Aztec, Unc Andy, OG Kicks. I think I said him already. And then I remember Lucas, the poser that popped up on TikTok. He was actually watching us. He used to watch us on YouTube side of things. I really appreciate you guys for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'll see you guys.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield. Bye.